Chinese geography knowledge that every Earthling must know. You must see the end. The full name of China is the People's Republic of China. Located in the eastern part of Asia, on the west coast of the Pacific Ocean. China is one of the oldest countries in the world. In ancient India, ancient Babylon and ancient Egypt, and the four great ancient civilizations, not only did they create a glorious culture, but also a glorious revolutionary tradition. And not only that, it's also the birthplace of Chinese civilization. It was the center of the East Asian cultural circle. Number of World Heritage Sites is a distant second. From the map of China looks like a rooster, standing tall in the east. You can also see that China is a huge country. It has a land area of 9.6 million square kilometers, the third largest in the world, second only to Russia and Canada. China's northernmost point is the Heilongjiang River, north of Mo, center line of the main channel. The southernmost point is near Zhangwansha in the South China Sea. It's almost 5,500 kilometers across. However, due to the large span of time, the temperature difference between the two places is huge, up to 70 degrees Celsius. And the easternmost point of China is Haixi Island in Heilongjiang Province. This is the first place in China to see the sun. And the westernmost point is near the Pamir Plateau. They're about 5,200 kilometers apart. Crosses 5 time zones. In other words, when the people of Haixi Island have gone to sleep, it's just getting dark on the Pamir Plateau. And back to the Chinese land border. The border is a whopping 22,000 kilometers long. One of the longest land borders in the world. And is bordered by 14 separate countries. They are North Korea in the east, the Russian Far East in the northeast, Mongolia in the north, Central Asian countries in the northwest, Kazakhstan and Tajikistan, for example. South Asian countries such as Pakistan and India in the southwest. And that is being budgeted Laos and Vietnam. 490:02:02:400:02:02:06:133. And China's mainland coastline is 18,000 kilometers. The ocean area is 4.73 million square kilometers. It is divided into 4 main seas. They are the Bohai Sea, the Yellow Sea, the East China Sea, and the South China Sea. Back to the mainland of China. Depending on the altitude, China can be divided into 3 major steps. The first staircase is mainly around the Tibetan Plateau. The average elevation is over 4,000 meters. Due to the high altitude, lower climate causes the Tibetan Plateau to resemble a giant exhaust fan. It acts as a constant regulator of the global climate. Plus, there's a lot of glaciers. It's the birthplace of many of the world's great rivers. These rivers are home to a third of the world's population. That's why the Tibetan Plateau is known as Asia's water tower. And the second stage is the main plateau of China, at an altitude of 1 to 2 kilometers. Here we have the Inner Mongolian Plateau, the Lus Plateau, and the Yunnan Guizhou Plateau. The third stage is mainly the plains. Elevations below 500 meters. There's nothing here but plains. And a few hills. The plains include the Northeast Plains, the North China Plain, and the Middle and Lower Yangtze Plains. The hills are mainly the Liaodong Hills, Shandong Hills, and Southeast Hills. And depending on the geographical characteristics, China can be further divided into 4 major geographic regions. The north and south are divided by the Qinling and Huihe rivers. North of the Qinling-Huai River is north. South of the Qinling-Huihe River is south. In addition to the difference in geographical characteristics between the north and the south, people's habits are also different. For example, in the north, they love pasta, and the south loves rice. And that's not all. There are 3 other great rivers in China: the Yangtze, the Yellow River, and the Pearl River. First is the Yangtze River, the largest river in China. It originates near the Tanggula Mountains, 6,300 kilometers long. Not only does it have a great capacity for water energy development, it has a navigational range of 2,800 kilometers. It's known as the Golden Rice. The Yellow River is the second largest river in China. It originates from the Yagpong Basin on the Tibetan Plateau. Total length 5,464 kilometers. This is not only the main birthplace of Chinese civilization, it's the mother river of the Chinese nation. And finally, the Pearl River, the third largest river in China. It originates near the Wuming Mountains on the Yunnan Guizhou Plateau. Length 2,320 kilometers. It's not just the river that's abundant here. It's also got a lot of tributaries. And there's a lot of tourism. The famous Huangguoshu waterfalls and Guilin landscape. That's where it's located, throughout China's boundaries. And the 4 great basins: the Daring Basin, Yungar Basin, Kaidam Basin, and Sichuan Basin, of which the Daring Basin is the largest inland basin in China, covering an area of up to 400,000 square kilometers. It's home to the world's second largest flowing desert, the Taklamakan Desert, an area of up to 330,000 square kilometers. For the last 1,000 years, it's kept moving southward at a rate of about 50 meters per year. However, it is worth mentioning that, in the 4 basins, it's not a vast desert. It's the Gobi. The only place that's rich is the Sichuan Basin. It's not just an ancient granary. It's also a strategic location for the country today. The strategic importance of this place cannot be overstated. China also has 3 major islands: Taiwan, Hainan, and Chengming. Taiwan is the largest, an area of up to 36,000 square kilometers, followed by Hainan Island at 35,000 square kilometers. And here's Chengming Island at 1,269 square kilometers. There are also 5 major freshwater lakes in China: Poyang Lake in Jiangxi Province, Dongting Lake in Hunan Province, and Chafu Lake in Anhui Province, Lake Tai and Lake Hongza in Jiangsu. The largest one is Poyang Lake, covering an area of 3,960 square kilometers. Except for the lake, mountains are also a major part of China's topography. And here we have to mention the 3 mountains and the 5 mountain ranges of China. The 3 mountains are the Yellow Mountains in Anhui Province, Lushan in Jiangxi, and Yandang in Zhejiang. The 5 mountains are Amti Taishan in the east, Anti Huashan in the western mountains, Anti Hanshan in the southern mountains, and Songshan in the central mountains. Oh no! In the vast expanse of China, there are countless mountains and rivers. And yet throughout the entire civilization of China, no matter how many dynasties have changed, the traditional culture of China continues to this day. Even in the modern era, when shotguns were used in order to defend ourselves against foreign enemies, they're moving forward after more than 100 years of struggle. A new China was born. For the next 70 years or so, under the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party, they've gone through the process of going from nothing to something. A historical leap from weakness to strength. It also creates the new China's magnificent. A chapter in the history of the new China, a chapter in the history of the new China. It took just over 70 years. Walk through the developed Western world. A path that would take hundreds of years to travel. No one in this knows better than the Chinese people what it means to be united as one. And in those 70 years or so, they were in this Chinese land. They have achieved so much. Let's count the ways. Those exciting moments. October 16, 1964. China's first atomic bomb exploded successfully, breaking the nuclear monopoly of imperialism. October 25, 1971. Restoration of legalcy in the United Nations. Chinese delegation attends the UN General Assembly for the first time, marking China's return to the world stage. 1997 and 1999. Hong Kong and Macau, colonized for hundreds of years. Back to the motherland. Advancing the great reunification of the motherland. November 20, 1999. Shenzhou 1 was launched from Jiuquan Satellite Center. 21 hours in space. Marking an important step in China's space program. November 10, 2001. China's accession to the WTO. In the decades that followed, China has changed dramatically. July 1, 2006. Qinghai-Tibet Railway officially opens for operation. This is not only a landmark project of the Western development strategy, and it's also one of China's four major projects of the new century. August 8, 2008. Opening of the Beijing Olympics. One of the most successful editions in the history of the Olympic Games. Showed the world a boom. Open and confident China. 2011. After more than 30 years of development after China's reform and opening up, China's GDP has surpassed Japan's, becoming second only to the US, the world's second largest economy. September 25, 2012. China's first aircraft carrier Liaoning, delivered to the People's Liberation Army Navy. Not only an ambassador for the Chinese Navy, but an ambassador for the times. It's also a milestone in China's development.